Do you know anything about highly sensitive people?
Yes.
Only because of me.
A lot of things about highly sensitive people. Now, Nick is super invested into it right now.
It's like
It's been
revolutionary.
revolutionary.
Which one?
She's gonna let us hang. It's been very revealing for him.
No, what is revolutionary? Like, because we're not starting a revolution.
I'm always starting a revolution.
Why does it sound like a song from Hamilton?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, he says that. He said, I want a revelation. Yeah, I feel the struggle. But revolutionary.
Revolutionary isn't a word, though.
I don't think it's.
Why would revolutionary
it should
be a word?
But I don't know if
I think all the things should be words.
No. No. I won't allow that.
But anyway, learning about the HSP stuff, that's like another thing that was...
Yeah, it's been huge for him.
Marty hooked.
I've
This
heard
is
all about
going to
it.
connect. Bear with me. Marty figured out our surround sound. Our house has all those speakers built in.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Our
going to pull
house
this
has
open.
some pretty
Starting a new puzzle
cool,
while you talk about this.
features. So he got it figured out, and it's super cool. I mean, it's very loud, but it's driving Charlotte crazy.
Oh,
She
really?
hates the big
she's
round
not too
rumbly, and she's like complaining.
Does she
all the
like
time.
going to the movies?
That's what I told her. Is like it's just like being at the movies. I think it's different for her because it's like the whole scene, you know. I don't know. And she's probably only been to a movie like 3 times in her life.
Aww.
So there's that.
I guess not sad if she doesn't like it.
That's probably cool though. That's around town.
Yeah,
it was cool playing Mario Kart with it.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys did last night? You played Mario
We
Kart?
played Monopoly. We played Mario Party.
We've been on a Monopoly kick.
What are we talking about? Who are we? Somebody introduce us.
Oh, I did it last time.
Do you need to go home and take a nap before we do this episode?
No, I'm ready to talk, but not the mundane, repetitive
Welcome
intro.
to the Fragile Podcast, where we're learning to embrace our humanity. Some of us a little too strongly.
Seriously, good. Great.
I'm Jessica,
I'm Sarah.
I'm April.
and today we're continuing with, elaborating
Talking? We're
Maybe
doing
all of
something.
the above.
on private Christian education.
Oh,
Kind of
not just
piggybacking off
Christian
of.
education,
There we go. Nailed
private.
it. Piggybacking off of.
Oh, that makes sense.
Keep going.
Sorry.
Keep going, Jessica.
Piggybacking off of our education episode.
Yes, correct.
There we go. So, and we spent a lot of time in that episode talking about public education and how we changed our minds about public education and how we are all involved in some way or another now with public education. But we barely touched on whoa, that was weird. Christian education.
You said Christian.
It's subconscious.
Wait, what is it called? It's somebody's yelling it right now as they're listening. It's
A Freudian slip.
yes. Thank you.
What?
A Freudian slip. Anyway, keep going. We're talking about Christian education.
Yeah.
Yes. What
Where
else?
we did not learn about Freud.
That was funny.
Well, maybe you
Didn't
did,
even
but he
know
was
who
like in a
Freud
little
was.
circle with his face cut out. Also, he was a really weird guy.
So
Yeah,
weird.
but a lot of those guys were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his ideas in particular, like other
Yeah.
psychologists later, like agree with him, but like, okay, Freud, tone it down a
That's
little.
true.
Like, not
Like,
everything.
not all
not everything
12-year-old
is about
boys are in
sex.
love with their moms.
Yeah, he really was obsessed
Yeah.
with that kind of weird
Yeah,
stuff.
he definitely was.
Yeah, that's strange. Anyway, wow, what's a fun?
We're also not talking about Freud,
No, we are not.
Oh,
We're not
no.
talking about Freud either.
except that we are.
We're not supposed to be.
Yeah, that
Very
works.
confusing.
Okay.
So we all have experience with Christian school in some form or another, either going to like a Christian private school or doing a faith-based homeschool curriculum ourselves or with our kids. So we have lots of experience, but didn't talk about it much on the education episode. So here we go.
Here we go.
Bum, bum. I haven't done that in a while.
You haven't. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Where did we? What's our experience with this? I was homeschooled with a Becca curriculum for like kindergarten, first grade.
Hey, me
and
too.
then went to funny. Then went to our church's very small private school. It's funny because people listening to this, I can imagine some of you are just going to know, like when I say really small church private school, you're going to know exactly what I mean of like 12 kids in these tiny little cubicles. And others of you are going to hear that like my graduating class was 4 people and think that's like I'm making a joke.
Lying.
Yeah.
Like you were lying.
Yeah. But you're not.
So weird, this world we live in.
All these worlds we live in.
All right. What about you, Sarah?
I was also homeschooled. Actually, this is kind of funny. I think I did kindergarten 3 years because mom taught at the Christian school and didn't have anything to do with me. So I went to kindergarten when I was 4, and then I actually
really good at your colors.
I was
by the time we started.
Actually, okay, funny story.
He's like,
no, this was not good, but this will make you guys laugh. I think this was when I was 4. We had to draw the letter I on like a chalkboard. She did not say the letter I. She said, draw a big I and a little I. So I drew a big eyeball and a little eyeball.
Also, bad wording on the teacher's part. You should be saying capital
you're
and lowercase.
supposed to use academic language as a teacher. So that's really not on me.
I feel like that's fitting because who was it? Was it mom? Or somebody else?
Am I allowed to say who it was?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
But like, I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't have any actual teacher training.
You would be correct.
Sorry, what was your experience?
Wait, I only got past my second year of kindergarten.
You spent your entire education in there, so I thought we were done.
No, I went to babysitting kindergarten at 4, and then I actually did kindergarten when I was 5, and then mom
sitting kindergarten
school.
Amazing.
Mom homeschooled me for kindergarten and first grade in 1 year, so I really know my letters now. And then I went to...
Most kids get it on the first go around.
Those eyes were tricky.
Oh, I was going to I already went through all this.
Oh.
And what else?
I'm gonna
And then you just stayed in Christian
she
school your whole life?
homeschooled me for kindergarten, first grade. Then I was in Christian school, the same private, tiny Christian school until 9th grade. And then sort of homeschooled after that, and then moved in with you, and you made sure I graduated.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for that. That came in clutch.
I was in a big Christian school for all of elementary school, and then we moved.
What is big?
Yeah, I'm curious about this big Christian
there
school.
are
You know what? That's a
Christian
great
schools?
question because when you're little, everything seems really big.
Yeah.
So if
it
I
could have been like
was
18
to
people.
say now, I would say there were a few hundred kids in it.
Oh.
But
you don't know.
But now I don't know because when you're little, everything seems big.
So there could have been 20 people. And
No. It was definitely bigger than that. But I don't know. But it was bigger than what you guys went to, that's for sure. Then we moved to another city, and I went to a couple of different Christian schools. Then I had to homeschool for 1 year. And then I went to a different Christian school, and that's where I graduated. I graduated all by myself. I was the only senior.
You were the graduating class.
Yep.
And then you went to Bible college.
I did.
Which, if
Wow.
you come from the real world and you're listening
real
or
world.
watching, that's a college that's... how would you describe that to people?
It's where you would go primarily if you're planning to be in ministry.
To to work for a church.
Yeah, to work in a church in some capacity. That's what I was at.
Crazy. And then we all started or homeschooled our kids at least. None of us sent our kids to private school, huh?
No.
No, I didn't.
No.
But I didn't homeschool mine with a Christian curriculum.
That's
Ours
right.
was not. I homeschooled through a charter school.
I did at the beginning, but didn't at the last half of it.
Right. But we all had, and then we talked about this in the education episode, but we all had strong ideas about avoiding public education.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was more of that process? Not so much of embracing public education, but we all began to see some flaws or some concerns with a strictly Christian education, I would say. Yeah?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And so what was that process like? What were some of those concerns that you saw or flaws that you noticed?
I think one of the big things for me was I saw that from what I grew up with and was in my circle at the time, the academic was severely lacking. I also didn't love the idea of my children having their academic or their education being filtered through a Christian lens.
Why?
Well, because so much of education isn't from a Christian worldview.
Like it can't be?
I mean, like it could, but I wanted my kids to be exposed to something other than a very closed and probably closed-minded Christian mindset.
Do you think that you would say that that's true of all Christian schools, or do you just think that was your mindset about Christian education in general?
I think what would be the purpose of a Christian school or a Christian education if it wasn't to filter your education through a Christian worldview?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I just didn't know if you were saying that, like that you personally, like from your own experience, so you wanted to like.
I definitely think my own experience very heavily influenced my decision, but I don't know. I haven't experienced like all other types of Christian education, so I can just say from my own experience, and I think that experience is enough for me to decide that's not the route I want to go.
Yeah, I think I would say that Christian education philosophically, people have Christian schools or send their kids to Christian school because they do want to avoid having them learn a secular worldview, and then also because they want to help them avoid any negative or sinful, like perceived sinful or negative influences on their kids.
So what were some questions you started to ask as you started to change your mind? Questions about the Christian school atmosphere, movement. What were some concerns that you had?
Yeah, I was just looking for ones with letters, but it's fine.
Maybe starting with like where Christian school came from.
Well, so the birth of the Christian school movement, or the Christian school movement, was birthed out of the civil rights movement and the forming of the moral majority, when like American Christians became like paranoid about rapid changes that were happening in the country during the 60s and 70s. And
I'm sorry, these are all not edges.
here, they can just go in here for now. These are 3 corners over here.
I have one over here.
Okay. So we're talking about like the beginning, like there's so much great research that's been done about that, specifically the forming of, the rapid Christian school movement that happened. So that's a red flag. I don't think that I think that things can be redeemed. So I wouldn't say like that the whole reason I didn't want my kids in Christian school was because of how it was birthed, but I would say it was enough of a red flag for me to be like, okay, there's a concern here that should be addressed. Also, I will say that I don't think Christian education has redeemed itself since then. I think it is still it's like an isolationist mindset, a sheltering mindset. We need to keep these kids from the world. And that's not to say that there aren't great people and loving people and also highly educated people in Christian schools. But I will say when that is the mindset behind it. Like I think you would be hard pressed to find a Christian school that didn't exist for that purpose. So that's concerning to me. This idea that, we have to get our kids away from all the bad stuff in order for them to turn out right. We talked a little bit about that on the parenting episode, so I won't go much into that, but that was a big deal for me.
I think another good question about the Christian school, movement that we had is who has that organization, who has it benefited? And who has it maybe hurt or harmed, and maybe not physically, but who has it not, like very specifically and intentionally not benefited? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, go ahead, Sarah, if you want to, or you, Jessica, if you want
yeah.
to answer.
Yeah, you haven't talked much.
I'm thinking.
Is it too obvious to? I don't know. It just I don't know. I feel like I can speak from my experience, but it seemed like all the kids that I went to school with, like if the goal was to protect them from the world, it didn't work. So if that's, I don't know. I need to think more about this.
Well, as far as like protecting or harming, that's a hard question to narrow down. Oh, you have those. Can I have those like tealish, bluish colors? I think there's good data that show that the kids in the public school education system are the worse off.
Kids in the public school?
Yeah.
In what ways?
Well, there was this massive flight out of the public schools, similar to the white flight that happened after the civil rights movement. This massive exodus of Christians out of the public sphere because everybody was super afraid of communism, afraid of integration, afraid of the hippies, afraid of anti-government mentality, afraid of all of these things, you know, and afraid of the breakdown of the nuclear family because of, you know, the things that were happening in the 70s and all that. And so these Christians vacated all the public spheres and like went into isolationist mode. That's never great for society, for there to be these like little subsets of isolationists. And I think that public school education has suffered for it. And then a lot of the ills of society, it's been very convenient for Christians to blame those on public education. And that, anyway, I don't know if that's another topic or if like we're veering too much off track, but
I think it lines up with what we're saying. I think the Christian schools were obviously designed to benefit the kids and the families in the churches.
right.
Benefit them by keeping them from the bad influences.
Right.
But obviously I think we would all say that it has harmed them
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
in ways like I felt, so you say it didn't keep the kids from worldly influences, but coming out of it, I feel like I was extremely sheltered.
I think it was either that or because it was such a isolated environment, like obviously no kid is going to thrive in that. So either they're going to just like sneak all that stuff behind the scenes and you're not going to know about it until they turn 18 and do whatever they want. Or you're going to get people like us who like, we followed the rules. Like we were the good kids, but now being in the world because we're people and that's where we live are so we're so sheltered. We don't even know what to do now or how to navigate it. And not that like we're not going crazy. Yeah, we're not lost. But yeah.
I want to like push back just a little bit in a way that I think some people who are listening to this might push back. So I'm going to like speak for the people who are possibly saying this to you when you say that. But I think they would say that's not true that no kids thrive in a Christian school environment because we have lots of kids who thrive. I know how I would respond to that, but what would you say to that?
What is your definition of thriving?
Okay.
But I would also say, I mean, I wouldn't say that no kids thrive. I think there are some kids that maybe would not function best in a public school, and that's fine. I think I have, the isolation is not my only concern.
What are some of your other
concern? About Christian school? I mean, my concerns stem a lot from my personal experience with the, one school that I went to, I went to a different one in elementary, but for like my high school years, where it was just weird.
It was.
Like the culture was weird things happened and not like abusive things. but the culture itself just wasn't super healthy. I would say that the leaders of the school did not handle things in a healthy way. It was very much just keep the kids under control so that they don't have an option to make mistakes.
Are you like comfortable giving examples of what you mean by that? Like, what do you mean handle things
so
in a
like
healthy
when
way?
things would get when they felt like things were getting out of control, like behaviors, they would implement a new rule.
Like what behaviors?
So like with kids trying to, like, dating wasn't even a thing. Like, you couldn't date, you weren't allowed to. But even if you liked somebody else and would hang out with them or talk to them, like, boys and girls were not allowed to sit next to each other. And at one point in high school, there were some of us, like, couples where
As much
we
as you
liked
could
each other because we were, 16 or whatever, and that's what you do. And but they actually called like a special assembly where we had two separate buildings. So like our school building was here and on one end of the block, and then you had to actually walk down the block to the church auditorium, and there were like 4 houses in between or something. So the whole school, which was like, I don't know, 60 something kids maybe.
Yeah.
Kindergarten through senior in high school, we all had to walk down to the auditorium, and they had this special assembly, and the pastor of the church, who was like kind of in charge of the school too, I think we had a separate principal at that time, but he got up and announced that there had been some issues with what he called coupling, and read the list of names of kids that liked another kid. Like, not even
Like, they
I
weren't
was one of
doing
them.
anything.
No, it was one of them was myself, and then this boy that I liked. We had never done anything wrong, but we were on this list just because we liked each other. And this new rule was started where these kids that liked each other were no longer allowed to speak to each other in school.
You
could not
Like,
talk
ever
to
in
them.
school at all?
No.
Like, you were never
Not at
allowed?
all. We could not say one single word to each other.
You couldn't sit at the same table as them. You had to sit on completely different tables at lunch.
Or what?
You got in trouble. Me and this boy that I liked, we ended up, because it was often that we had to walk back and forth from this auditorium to the school. And so there were just for different things. And me and this boy ended up kind of walking at the same time, did not say a single word to each other, but a teacher came walking down towards the auditorium at the same time and stopped us both and said, "You guys know you are not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to be together. You're breaking this rule." We probably got a demerit or something. I don't know. Yeah. So I was like 16 and generally a rule follower. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really break rules.
to the T
And
rule.
I had my name read in front of the whole school.
Oh, wow.
And that was such a like shaping moment for me. So those are some of the things, and that's not an isolated situation either. Like, there were
No.
just weird things. Like, and looking back, I think it mostly stems from control. So that is some weird thing.
What
And
do you think they were afraid of? Like, if
losing control?
Do you think, in our specific scenario, do you think that they were afraid of their own kids being influenced?
Partially. And I know that there was one of the couples that probably were doing, I don't know, making out
Yeah.
behind the building or something, or maybe even more, I don't know.
Don't.
And so it was like one main couple that was like causing trouble or whatever. But because of that, because they lost control on them, they
was
had
like
to like
panic.
buckle down. Yes. And so there
You
was
were there?
that situation.
I was,
happened?
yeah.
were you a couple?
No.
Oh, man.
I know. I was a little bit bummed.
But I remember another time, and I don't even remember what brought it up, but it was this one thing, and I don't remember why, but our mom worked at the school. And so it was one day after school, and it had been kind of a long day. Something weird happened with a friend because it was high school. And then she had a meeting, a teacher's meeting after school. And she came out and she thought it was kind of funny. And she was like, well, the whole meeting was just about you and how awful you are. Which she didn't take seriously. She knew that I wasn't awful. And
She was,
I
like,
don't
teasing
remember.
about it or
Yeah,
something.
because she thought it was hilarious. And I don't even remember why. But there were some other things that had happened or gone on.
I think it was me. There was a time when me and the pastor's daughter used to be best friends, but we got into junior high and she just would not talk to me. And so I just said, hey, can we talk at lunch and try to figure out what's going on? Like, I kind of miss you. And so we sat down, I tried to talk to her. I was like, hey, what's going on? And she just took off crying. And her mom worked at the school. So she runs into her mom. I have no idea what was said. So we come in from lunch And all of the 7th grade girls get called to a meeting.
Oh, I remember.
And I got laid into like, how dare you ever call a meeting without an adult present? You are never allowed to talk to somebody about conflict or anything going on without an adult. Like, you are 12 years old. You cannot handle it. Like, for probably at least 30 minutes, I'm being yelled at in front of all the probably 8 7th grade girls about this. And then it became like a big thing because mom and her mom were also friends. And so mom also thought like, this is all really stupid. Like, just let them talk and handle it on their own. Like, it doesn't need to be this big old thing, but it was with them. And then it became a big old thing for me. And then the rest of that year, oh my word, I got in trouble for every little thing that I did or didn't do. I had probably a detention every day that year for stuff that I just didn't do.
Isn't it a similar situation for you and another one of the pastor's daughters?
Yeah. Where one, I did something, I don't remember what it was. I made like an offhand comment to somebody, and that person, I don't know if that got her in trouble or something, but something happened that I never really knew what it was. It was something I did, not on purpose, but I did something. And I think it got her in trouble, and she never spoke to me again.
Like to this day?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the vibe was just really
you
weird.
can probably understand where we're coming from.
Wait, and obviously not all Christian schools are that way, I would hope. At the same time, when you have something that's designed like for a very specific purpose of like isolating people from one environment and keeping them safe in another, you're going to have to put things in place to keep that environment safe. And that just is the way it is. And maybe it was a particularly like not healthy group of leaders. I don't know. And that's honestly, there were so many weird things that happened.
Yeah.
I remember I got a pair of black tennis shoes.
This is going to be so weird. I can
dare
tell.
you?
Which apparently girls were not allowed to wear tennis shoes other than white colored tennis shoes. Boys could. I don't even know. This is a true story. I'm not making it up. I promise.
What?
I don't remember.
And so I got a detention for having, and it wasn't like you wouldn't get a detention right off the bat because it was just a dress
You
code
had to get 3
violation.
demerits and then
But
you got
I
a
think
detention.
because like it was just a new pair of shoes and that's the only one that I had, so I just wore them. And so I think I got several demerits or whatever. I ended up getting a detention because of my black tennis shoes, even though boys could wear black tennis shoes.
I don't even know how I'm supposed to respond
weird.
to it. If there is a response, I don't know.
So it was just a weird culture.
So, okay, then are there have to be some Christian schools who are not
I would hope so.
as much that
I
way.
would think. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
like,
sure
we
there are.
were familiar with a lot of other Christian schools
That's
who
also
were
true.
also
Really weird.
the same. Like, I could probably name you at least 10 right now in our surrounding
Yeah,
area.
see, I'm trying to think too, and the ones that I know about were
Like,
the
they were
same
all-
too.
Like we were kind of the cool kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because like we
I
would travel
remember
within
that.
our area to
Yeah.
play sports and stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we were probably some of the more normal.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. The more I think about it, I could probably
if you
name
guys are
like
out
20.
there, if you went to high school at different schools with us, are you okay?
Do we need a support group? Oh, I think I need a support group.
You have one. You're sitting with your support group
thanks,
right
guys.
Beyond the weird like rule controlling things, even just the educational model that was used was like, to put like quite honestly so damaging.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
used this curriculum, it was called School of Tomorrow. It has the paces and all that. And you just sit in your own little cubicle. It's like it's a desk with 2 walls and you're facing the wall. And then you have these 2 divider things so that you can't see anybody ever. And then
And
you
you
just
can't
sit there
turn
and you
around
do,
because you get a demerit.
yeah, you do. You get a demerit for turning around.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And you just sit there and you do all of your work. You have all of your instructions in your little packets that you do, and you don't even just do your work, but you
You teach yourself.
when you and when you need to check your answers to see if you got everything right, you put your little American flag up on the top of your desk, and then the teacher comes.
Supervisor.
There you go. and
Or
says that
monitor.
you're allowed to score your work, which means grade your work, and you go up to the scoring station and pull out the answer key and check your answers. And then if you got stuff wrong, you have to go back and correct it and all that. And like there was the only time the teacher did stuff is occasionally there would be a question box where you had to have like original thoughts. And I'm serious. Like, but it wasn't that often. And then the teacher would actually have to come and grade that one.
Yeah.
And the teacher graded like your final test. You did 12 of these packets in each subject throughout the year. And at the end of each packet, you graded
At
your
the end of
your
each
self-test.
packet, you graded your self-test,
And then you had,
you
like,
had your
your test that you
and
did in a separate table.
Yeah, that you had to go to
And
a
they
different
graded
table
that.
to do.
So like for kids, and it was all reading. You just read all of the information, which knowing now, because now I'm going back to an actual school, like a college that is so heavy on reading because I'm doing online school. I have realized that reading is really hard for me. Like it is just really hard. And so to look back and think like that's what my early education years were, which is all reading. And I never did super great at school, but didn't make sense because I was fine. I was a fairly good student. I did fine. I tried hard. I just never did super great. And so I just figured I wasn't super smart. Yeah. Ay.
Jessica needs a minute to recover.
Christian education.
So my kids are public schooled now. And we love it. Oh man.
Where do you go from there?
My question is, why would anybody be in a Christian school now?
That's what I'm
I know
curious.
I
want to try to be
understand, but
fair.
yeah, I know.
There's
Like,
got to be other.
Feeling like a little raw here, but
and that's
get
okay.
it.
This is
Yeah.
you're allowed to be human and be raw, and you also
Especially
have a
with
lot
that,
to
yeah.
work through, so that makes sense too. But I guess
It's tricky, isn't it?
it is tricky. I don't really know like what is it. I feel the need to say
Caveat?
that to say that like they're not all bad.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's in the corner.
But also I don't have any anecdotal proof that would back that up.
Hypothetically, like what would a healthy Christian school environment look like?
See, that's the trick for me because
We don't
I don't
even-
think there is any isolationist viewpoint that's healthy.
Yeah.
If say you were, I don't know, in a place that just had really bad quality public education, it just really was, or even
there
unsafe,
are places like
or even
that.
unsafe,
Sure.
where you or your child didn't thrive in that public school environment, what would it look like for you? Like, what would be the ideal situation for that child? You know?
I mean, I guess I have to look to, because I've never been in that situation myself, I have to look to people who I know who are in that situation. And one of the main things I ask is, what do the people who have to go there do?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have options.
Mhm.
So what do they do? You know, so like first, I think before we continue the discussion, it has to be recognized that to even have an option to consider is a privilege.
Sure.
So
Do you think that's wrong?
I don't think it's wrong. I think it is important to understand and to recognize that it's true. Because I think there are a lot of people who Christians who feel like they're owed. And they don't understand that it's a privilege that most of the people in the country don't have. So first, I think that has to be part of the discussion. After that, I would say that I know people specifically who are in that situation, not personally, but like I've read their books or they've made conscious choices to move to places on purpose where they know that it would be like a less than preferred environment. And they just get more actively involved. And
In the public school?
in whatever school their kids go to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answer is too simple, or if it like discounts like real danger or threat. I don't know what we're talking about here specifically, you know, as like a dangerous school. I don't know.
So it sounds like you're saying that you like they should never consider private school.
I have a hard time saying never about anything.
Yeah.
I would say that if you can show me a Christian school that does not exist to isolate from the world and to like with this goal of like protecting kids from all the evil at all costs, then I would say we could have a further discussion. But I don't know why do people have a Christian school other than that reason right there.
Yeah.
So
And I
then
think-
an ideal, sorry.
I was just going to say, that's not to say that there aren't good teachers in Christian school
No,
or there
of
aren't good
course.
kids in schools
There
or
are
good
good
families.
and bad people in all spaces.
And
in
yes.
homeschooling spaces, in Christian school spaces, in public school spaces. There are really good people and really bad people in
Yeah.
all those spaces. That is just true.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I lost it.
So you're saying like perfect scenario, or you're saying like
So if there were a Christian school that, maybe they were created to provide an opportunity for kids that weren't getting the resources they needed in public school, because public schools are limited.
sure.
And so maybe special needs kids or, kids that have been bullied or like where it wasn't necessarily safe for them or they weren't thriving there and they wanted to provide another space for those kids where their needs could be met.
I think then that is a very rare exception to a almost always true rule. So there for sure are kids who don't do well in a public school environment. I don't know that a private Christian education is the answer to that. I think there are other options also, but I can't say that I would just never consider, Christian school. I don't know all the Christian schools, so. Maybe there are some that are absolutely amazing and very inclusive and not afraid and all of the things. I don't know. I think it would have to be like, I have a hard time saying like this is universally true.
Right.
You know?
I'm just trying to think of some parents who do feel like it is their only option, maybe because they have been through something with their kid or they, I don't know.
I think I would just have to say, like, I would just have to remind people, like, just because you've been through a bad thing in one situation doesn't mean that it will always be bad in all of those situations.
Right.
Also, I would want to remind people, again, I just said it, but no matter where
She's
you
taking the
are,
glasses
no matter where your kids are, they are going to be around good and bad people.
Yes.
Good and bad kids, good and bad people in Christian school, in homeschool, in church, in no matter where you are, that's going to be true. So if your goal is, I have to protect this kid at all costs from bullying or whatever you want to fill in the blank, I don't think there is a place on earth that you can do that.
Right, to protect entirely. But if there's a situation where like a child is being actively bullied and there is,
And the
a
school
real
won't do
threat,
anything about it.
Yeah,
or sure,
where it does.
Yes, then they're
Like that's not a
But
safe
is that
option.
so then your answer is to just negate all public school?
Not necessarily. I'm thinking because I can imagine some parents out there feeling really helpless and putting their kids in a Christian school and then feeling like, well, that was wrong too.
Yeah.
You should have just tried harder. I just want to save space for those parents who feel like they are out of options.
Yeah, I have definitely total sympathy for those people. That is a really hard place to be, for sure. That's why I don't think there is a perfect universal answer for everybody.
But I'm also wondering, like, for those families, and I know you don't like hypotheticals.
I do not.
Just like
Tell me the family specifically. Where do they live? What did they go through?
Family.
Okay, well, you
Like,
answer that
what
then
would the
because you are
answer-
better with hypotheticals.
Well,
Oh man, that went the wrong box. I need to go in your box.
Wait, you did that already.
Like, what would the ideal school look like?
What do you think?
I think it will, like you mentioned before, like the motive would have to be, I don't know, maybe to help and serve rather than to isolate, and to be open to anybody. It wouldn't be restricted by a statement of faith. It would have healthy leadership and like a standard.
You are the worst.
I'm
I'm
like Jack
listening.
the elephant
I am
over here,
listening.
and you
Yes.
guys aren't even listening.
No, I am.
You
I'm
are.
listening.
You
Like
go,
a
you.
standard of academic excellence and resources available to the students so that they can thrive and basically all the things we didn't have.
So again, I think like this is a very privileged conversational space,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
But we're talking about Christian education.
yeah, so it is.
That's
It's like by
kind
nature.
of the
I-
culture.
I want to like also, acknowledge the coming from our families. We were not like, we didn't have the privilege of wealth necessarily.
Oh no.
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so that like mom worked at the school and our
Right.
parents sacrificed to put us there as
Sure.
many other parents are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not,
Yes, but there
there
are
is
even
sacrifice, but even to have the option is
Yes.
still a privilege. Like I
Correct.
think it's both, but a lot of people hear the word privilege and think they didn't work hard for that.
Yeah.
They, all of that. It's
that's
both.
a misunderstanding.
I know, so I just wanted to clear
Okay.
that up because I know what some people hear when some things are said.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry.
Jessica thinking about all the people over there.
I'm like rethinking every moment of my high
I know.
school
I feel
years.
like you
I
just
feel
brought
like,
back a lot of
seriously, stuff that I didn't even
traumatizing.
remember until like you say it out loud.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then it just like comes out.
And when you
and-
say it out loud, it's so much more like, wow, that was
just
really
so
especially
weird.
when you're
weird.
saying it to people who probably didn't grow up with that, or like
Yeah.
without
Like to see
being
it from their
so
perspective.
foreign. And then you just like it is just very revealing.
It is also weird. Like us in high school would go into the younger kids. It wasn't called classrooms; they were called learning centers. Why couldn't it be a classroom?
I
Why
do
were
not
the
know.
words all weird?
Why
Why was it boring and not graded? Like we never got grades. We didn't get a good grade. Well, we got
It was a score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got a good like that's so
that's
weird.
like the
Why did it all have to be different?
because it
think
all
just
goes
because
back to
they
the
had to
lack of
differentiate.
academic education. Like if you go to a public school,
But see, because I remember that being a thing though in the school is that they I don't know, like claimed academic excellence. Like there were some kids that did thrive. And I mean, we took what are the annual state testing things that you take, and a lot of kids did well. And even I did.
There are some kids who will thrive no matter what. So that there are some kids that thrive does not make the education good. There are some people who grow up in the ghetto and make it out. It does not mean that we should just be like,
Yeah.
well, see, ghetto
Some kids
survived,
did it.
like that, that
Yeah.
guy got out,
yeah, no. Also, I only remember doing state testing one time, and you have all the words.
This is a funny story. Oh, I have a bunch of letters here too. On what you took them on paper, obviously.
no,
What?
not
You took
anymore.
The state tests. Well, I would then. No, when I was in high school, you did. And
Back
I
in the
didn't know
day.
the difference between print and cursive. Like the term print, I feel like I've never heard that before. And so you were supposed to print your name, I think, on the test. And I wrote my name in cursive because we had to write everything in cursive. And then the teacher, after the test, brought it back to me and said, you wrote your name wrong. You need to print it. And I didn't know what they meant.
When you did state testing?
Yeah.
You would have had to be in like
I was in,
sixth
like-
or seventh
Oh,
grade
I
because
was
I think I was
yeah,
in
it
third
was in
grade
junior
when
high.
we did it.
Wow. That's weird.
That was just funny. And I don't know why that is. I mean, yeah. Anyway, that was weird. That was all.
And all these things are just now occurring to Jessica.
It's just
pulling
gonna
them up
be
from
like-
memory,
Word vomit for the rest of the episode.
No. It can be helpful. But I think ultimately for me, it was my experience with Christian education that has pretty much always made me never consider that as a viable option for my kids. And not because every Christian school is the same as mine. I know that's not true. But because there is enough that you just can't get away from. So there's me. Anybody else?
Is that what we're talking about?
I
I
don't
thought we
know.
already
That's
talked
what we're
about
talking
that.
about
Jessica's
now.
rehashing
Like,
previous
She needs to
conversation.
process. We're just gonna let her process. Welcome to Jessica's emotional trauma, Christian lack of Christian education processing.
Well, that was a really
I
long
don't
title.
know.
We need to
That
workshop
That's a
that.
working title.
It's like Leslie Knope in her news article titles.
Okay, what else are we talking
man.
about though?
Whoa,
Is that
I
it?
scrolled.
Is that where we land in the plane? Or
Like,
I think
there's
we're
no
landing the
plane.
plane.
There's no landing strip. It's
Yeah.
all blown up.
I think I have questions for people that do consider or that have their kids in Christian education. beyond the, like, is there a good reason to have your kids in private education?
Private education
I would
or
be
private
curious
Christian?
to know
Okay.
if there's anyone who is listening. I know there are a lot of people who listen who have their kids in Christian school. Is there any one of you who has your kid in a Christian school for a reason other than you want to isolate them from the world, or you want them to have a Christian worldview, educational worldview, rather than a secular?
And I think we should acknowledge that at one point we all would have felt the same. Like,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course we
Yes.
don't want our kids around
Absolutely.
those influences
Yes.
because that's gonna,
Yes.
ruin them and all of that. So
100%.
I think there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who don't even know how to consider that they, I don't know, that they might be wrong. That feels too, like, I don't tell something they're wrong, but that there
But
might
there could
be
be
a
another
different way
way.
to think about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a really big dividing line
Yeah.
in this conversation, where people say, well, no, that's why I have them in Christian school, to keep them from those influences.
Right.
And
right.
they're okay with that.
Yeah. And if that's true, that's your reason. But I'm just curious if there's anybody who has a reason other than that. Just for my own
Yeah,
curiosity.
I would be curious too.
Well, there we go. So,
That's it.
yep.
That's the episode.
That's all we have to say about Christian education.
No.
That was kind of a lot.
There's way more.
I feel like we didn't end on a very positive note.
I mean, I think that speaks for itself.
yeah. Okay. Bye.
No, I was going to say something that wasn't negative. I don't remember what it is, though.
I feel like this is just a conversation we need to have with more people.
Or people who have been through
Be-
Christian education. Or,
Different, like,
Different perspectives.
yeah, like have any of our, what do we, like any of you people listening or watching?
Oh,
listeners.
Thank you. I don't even know what I'm asking now.
well, she just asked. Like, is it the same question she just asked?
No, no. Like, do you have a different experience than us?
Oh, I'm sure there'll
Like-
be lots of people.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear other people's experiences with Christian education.
Although based on, so our responses from the polls with education, there were a lot with experience in Christian education. Like
Yeah,
the
that is
most,
true.
right?
Yeah.
And the comments were a little varied
Yeah.
as far as like why or how it was. So that was interesting.
For sure, we received the most pushback from this episode than any other episode.
From
that
our
we've done. From our
education
education episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From people who are diehard Christian school supporters. And I would love to have a continued conversation about it. I would love to learn more about your reasons, especially if they are other than the ones that we're assuming. We can assume incorrectly for sure. Or if you are coming from a position where you feel that you want to defend that reasoning, then I would love to. I would always love to hear that kind of stuff.
yeah, same.
Mhm.
I can take it or leave it.
I don't think I would be surprised to learn something that would change my mindset on Christian education, but I am curious to know other people's perspective and experience.
Same.
Okay.
Same.
All right. So is that it? We're really done.
We're done.
We're not even talking about anything else. It feels
That's
weird.
it?
Like
Yeah.
it feels short and chaotic.
Like, what was it that? Yes, it felt
Does
like
feel
a
chaotic.
tornado
I think
just
it
came
is.
through.
It is what it is.
But that's humanity. Not all podcast episodes are going to be tidied up and finished with a little bow on top.
All right.
This one's kind of leaving us with a dust storm.
Well, Sarah's like, I don't know where Sarah's going. I don't know where she's headed with this, but
she's hopping on the metaphor train. It's taking her fast.
It's my lack of education, guys.
she's going downhill. We can keep continuing the conversation for sure. You know, in Instagram or Substack or wherever we have conversations. And if you guys have questions or comments, or you want to clear up some of our assumptions, or you want to tell us, you know, why you agree or disagree, we're always welcome to that.
Yeah,
Yep.
keep the conversation rolling.
Sarah
I'm hitting a wall.
needs a nap.
I do.